All right.
All right, so we are joined by my man, high school classmate, college classmate, Doug Mays, production manager at C Spire here in Ridgeland. I've got a room
Yep.
full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our computer science engineering classes in Madison County schools, all the middle schools, high schools, and for our YouTube channel. And before we get into what all you do at C Spire and all the technical
Mhm.
stuff you deal with and all the great careers that are available in the tech area at C Spire, I think it's important we start with your background
Sure.
because you graduated with me at Madison Central in 2000,
Sure did.
and then we were at Southern Miss together.
We
And
will.
I think you can confirm a story that I have told numerous times. And
All
these
right,
kids
let's
get
let's
so
hear
sick
it.
of hearing it, but I always talk about, as silly as it is, it's actually a great example because me and you we had a huge graduating class. This is before
Hmm.
Germantown and before Ridgeland. Hold on one second. Before Germantown, before Ridgeland, we had a huge graduating class, and then we were at Southern Miss together. And I always talk about how it is possible to get lost in the shuffle at a major university because these kids want to say, "I want to go to these big schools and this, that, and everything." And you can confirm the story because you literally were the person. We were in a class together the entire semester, and we did not know that we were in the same class until the
To
very
the
last.
last day. Yep, absolutely. It was one of
So,
those large auditorium classrooms, one of the 101, 201s with, 300 people in it. Absolutely.
so yeah, for the kids that always think I'm making that up, this is the person that was. So this is confirmation that that story is true. So
It,
I had to
absolutely
throw
true.
that in there because I know they get sick of hearing that, but it is a great way to explain about how to find your place at a university. So
Yep.
Southern Miss and then take us from there.
Yeah, so like you said, went to Southern Miss. When I initially started at Southern, I had high aspirations of graduating with a polymer science degree. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's chemistry, right? A polymer is just another word for plastic, right? Long chain of stuff, you make plastics. Southern had one of the top polymer engineering departments in the entire
Yeah,
world
still do.
at that point, and I think they still do.
Yeah,
But like most people, after about 3 years of some very complicated math, I decided that wasn't for me, right? Bounced around a few different majors. I ended up taking 5 years to finish four, but settled on advertising of all things. I took an advertising class, really enjoyed the creativity of the class itself, but also my mathematics background was applicable for the statistics that are involved with advertising, marketing, all of that. You wouldn't think it when you think advertising, you think the show that came out, right, Mad Men, and you imagine a bunch of creatives in a room drawing. No, there's a whole lot of science and math and stats behind everything a company does around their advertising and marketing. So I graduated with a degree in advertising in 2005. Um, Very first job out of college, first real job I ever had was selling ads for the Clarion Ledger. Did that for about a year and decided that I was not a very good salesman, right? So I ended up got on. There was a company here on Highland Colony Parkway called Diversified Technology.
oh
They had
yeah,
an opening. Yeah, they were a subsidiary of Ergon. If you guys are familiar with the big glass building on Lakeland Drive, that's Ergon. DTI was a subsidiary of them, and they made very advanced computers and power electronics. So think of blade computers that power like cell phone towers, things like that, for heavy industry, the military, things like. They had an opening for a technical marketing position, technical marketing specialist, I believe was the title. But that was actually the first real job I had where I was working for a technology company, right? I don't have a technology
wow.
degree. I don't really have a background. As a kid, I was very interested in PCs and computers. Did a lot of PC gaming, right? Back in the '90s. These kids are too young for that, right? But like Quake
Dude.
2, Counter Strike, all that, Doom, right? But didn't really have a technology background. But working for DTI, I started to learn a whole lot very quickly about advanced technologies. I had never heard of things like InfiniBand and MPLS networks and all of that. It was completely foreign to me. But I had to get up to speed very quickly, right? Because I was the marketing guy for all of this stuff. I credit my boss at the time, Joe McDevitt. He was an engineer turned head of marketing at DTI, and so he was able to really mentor me and teach me a lot on the job from a technical aspect, right? So I worked for DTI for around 6 years, moved up the chain in there from technical marketing specialist to a field application engineer. And my very last title there was called product strategist, which is not a title anyone has. It doesn't mean anything, right? But what I was actually doing is what I do now. I was doing product management, but at the time, nobody knew what product management was.
Oh.
And people still don't really know what product management is. You can't get a degree in it. It's
Yep.
not something you can go to school and learn, right? This is a position or a role that you learn by doing. It's experience that comes together that allows you to do it. So that was really when I first started doing product management, even though it wasn't called product management, right? But anyway, moved on from DTI, went to work for a software development company in Oxford, Mississippi called FNC. They do banking software, worked for them for about 4 or 5 years. And then a guy that I had worked with at DTI in the past called me out of the blue. He was working at C Spire. And he said, hey, we have a position open for product management over our cloud services division. I think you'd be a good fit. Why don't you send me your resume and I'll pass it on to the hiring manager? And so I did. Lo and behold, 2015, October of 2015, I get a call, I interview, and I'm now over the entire cloud practice for C Spire in terms of product management.
Wow.
C Spire we were very smart, right? We just out of the blue built a $30 million data center and then said, ooh, we need somebody to monetize this, right? So they brought me in to try to make a $30 million investment make money. We've done that, right? So those of you that don't know or just know C Spire as a cell phone company, we're far more than that, right? C Spire is the sixth largest cell phone provider in the United States,
Yeah.
but we're also one of the largest managed and cloud services provider, one of the largest internet providers, one of the largest voice over IP providers. We are the largest Cisco partner in the entire Gulf South region. C Spire does far more than just cell phones, right? And so the business division that does all of that stuff, right? Internet, voice over IP, unified communications, managed and cloud services, that's my domain. So I run the product management team for C Spire business. And I've been here at C Spire now about 7.5 years.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of my journey to now.
Yeah, and I think most people don't realize that the name C Spire means customer inspired.
That's correct. Those of you who might be too young might not know, C Spire used to be called Cellular South.
Yep.
And so it was heavily focused on the wireless business and the region, right? South. Much like the recent bank, Bancorp South, right? They purchased a bank called Cadence Bank and changed the company that bought Cadence changed their name to Cadence.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to get out of that regional identity. Well, C Spire said the same thing, right? We want to diversify out of just being cellular and we want to diversify out of just being South, but we don't want to lose our core identity. And the core identity of C Spire is customer inspired. I mean, it's on my desktop right now. My background says customer inspired. And you can't see the wall on this side of my monitor, but every office, every conference room, every room in this building, we have a little stick man on the wall. It's a little silver stick man with his arms out, legs out. And it literally represents the customer.
Wow.
And the point is, when you're in a meeting, when you're on a phone call, when you're talking to your colleagues, when you're making decisions about the business, what you're actually doing is making decisions about your customer. Yeah. And we have to keep the customer at the forefront of our mind anytime we're doing anything here at C Spire. That is the number one. I mean, that is drilled into us from day one. That is the ongoing mantra, no matter what.
Yeah, and it's not just, kids having cell phones. When you're talking about that cloud stuff, and the business side, you're talking about businesses that invest thousands and thousands of dollars to have their data up, to have
Oh,
their
absolutely.
have the internet in the business, be able to run able to run the payroll systems. And as their demand grows, your technology has to grow. So talk
Absolutely.
about
We have to be able to
how that
scale.
versus, because obviously you don't have the tech degree, you don't have a
Right.
tech background, but you have to stay on top of this. So what are some things that you have to learn as you go when it comes to product management in a tech company?
Yeah, so I'm a member of a lot of tech organizations. I get newsletters, I get articles. I mean, a lot of it is staying engaged and self-teaching,
Yeah.
right? Like I said from the beginning, you can't get a degree in this. Nobody can tell you how to do it. And from a technology standpoint, like you say, that you have to have the interest in it to teach yourself, to stay on top of these things, right? I have calls with all of my vendors every week, staying on top of their roadmaps. And I'll tell you, there are times we're in meetings with vendors and they're using acronyms for technology I've never heard.
Wow.
But do you know what I'm doing right then? I'm Googling that acronym and learning what in the heck it is so that I can have at least some sort of conversation about it and understand. Now, once you have that baseline knowledge, right, once you know what something stands for, it's pretty easy to discern what it means, how it's used, all of that. But yeah, even today, I mean, I learn things about technology within the space we serve absolutely every single day. There is not a single day that I don't learn something I didn't know yesterday.
Yeah, and that's also a good point because I'm sure you're aware with the basic engineering design process. One thing, and I can speak for the other teachers on this. These kids, when we start doing something, they say, "Oh, this is too hard. I quit." How often do people in tech actually get it right the first time?
We actually, especially in product management, right? So part of our job, not the only thing we do, but part of our job is new product development, bringing new things to market, right? One of the worst metrics to grade a product manager on is a successful product launch. What I mean by that is not did they bring the product to market, but was the product successful? Did you
Yeah.
sell it?
Yeah.
That's a horrible metric, right? Another horrible metric is how many products did you bring to market in X number of space, right? Did you bring 50, 100? That's a terrible metric. The reason why it's terrible is because this is not a science, right? There's a lot of art, there's a lot of guesswork involved. I would estimate, and this is me estimating from my own experience. I've read some industry things. On average, you're going to bring 15 to 20 new products to market and have one success.
Yeah.
One. So, yeah, I mean, you're batting 5%, right? If you're batting 5% on new products to market, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, and especially when there's more and more tech companies popping up every day, being able to develop anything and staying ahead of the curve, like C Spire did, saying, "Look, there's going to be a demand for this. People are going to need virtual storage. People are going to need lightning fast data. They're going to need software to manage this stuff. Stuff like that is what keeps people in business and gets people jobs."
Right, absolutely. And the flip side of that, not only being able to anticipate the demand that a customer is going to have, it's also being able to anticipate the timing when you may be too soon to market before customers' infrastructure is really ready, right? Because anytime a new technology comes to market, it takes investment from the customer to implement, right? And they have to understand what that technology can do for them, how it's going to solve their problems. And you can bring a great technology to market, but nobody's ready for it. It's not going to sell for 5 more years. So part of the art is being able to determine, are we going to hit that sweet spot where there's going to be demand right when we come to market, or are we going to have to wait a good year, 2 years before we start generating the kind of demand we expect to see.
Yeah, and you don't want to make something so advanced nobody knows how to use it.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
There's always a learning curve because me and you remember when the smartphones first came out, they were confusing to use. I'm not
they were.
No, when they first came out, they were hard. Now everybody knows how to do it, but you don't want to just throw the most advanced phone out there and expect customers to buy it when it's too hard to use. We just stuck with the flip phones.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, before I get to some of the students' questions, we got to talk about C Spire because you hear a lot of you hear a lot of people say, "Well, there's no tech jobs in Mississippi," and that's false. Obviously,
Completely false.
they have them in other areas if you want to go to a different area. And C
Yep.
Spire is not just in Mississippi. There's locations in New Orleans, Pensacola,
Hmm.
Memphis, Atlanta. So they have footprints other places. But right here in the area, let's say you don't want to venture around. C Spire is looking for people coming out of community college or
Oh,
college
absolutely. We
right now.
hire out of boot camps. We hire out of community college. We hire for internships all of the time. I mean, C Spire always has positions open. And quite honestly, even if we don't have positions open and someone very well qualified applies, we'll hire them. We'll find something for them to do to contribute, right? We're the one thing C Spire won't do is let talent go to waste.
Yeah.
And we are always looking for talent across, not just in CSB, but across the entire business. I mean, you think of C Spire as a technology company, but we're just like any other business. We have positions that are not technology related, right? We need accountants, right? We need leaders in customer service. We need people to do all of the things that keep a business running that may have nothing to do with wireless technology or cloud managed services, right? There are jobs aplenty. Now, of course, the core of C Spire is technology, and most of the jobs that come available are on the technology, are in some way, shape, or form related to technology. Whether it's being a developer for one of our internal systems, developer for one of our customer-facing systems, solution and sales engineering is a very lucrative position that we see a lot of people get into. These are technical people that basically ride along with salespeople to their customer calls, and they act as the technical expert for what the salesperson is trying to sell the customer. So, we have a lot of engineers that go from engineering into a sales engineering solution because it gets them out of the rut of the mundane coming to the office, right? They're out in the field, they're going and visiting customers. Some of them really enjoy that a lot more than the back end engineering, right?
Yeah, and there's the need for people that are digging in the dirt, burying
Absolutely.
tires. I mean,
We lay thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of fiber. We've got construction crews. We've got fiber operators. We've got truck roll technicians that go to serve our customers, right, to install the technology they purchase or troubleshoot it or do professional services. I mean, we run the gamut here at C Spire of available opportunities for work, right? There are positions aplenty across the business.
yeah, and that's a varying level of education levels because
Yeah,
obviously, and we always say when me and you were coming out of high school, we weren't told about all the different the levels of education. It was either you're going to college or you're not.
right.
We weren't
Absolutely.
really told about all the different options because right now you would hire somebody. I know you're not directly hiring, but your department would love to have somebody coming out of the Air Force that
Oh,
hasn't
absolutely.
been to college a day in their life, but they get the technical training in the military that is ahead of
Absolutely.
the curve that could be used in a tech company.
Yeah, and within the technology space, there are tons of opportunities that are completely irrespective of college. The tech space is one of those spaces that really is still merit based.
Absolutely.
It's not just about the education you have. Well, education is strong. It's not about what college you went to. It's what you know and what you can do.
Yeah.
I would venture to say that you can have a very high salary within 1 year by spending $2,000 becoming a Microsoft Azure expert and going to work for an MSP in their Azure practice than you will with a 4 year degree.
And
I'll
also
say
right across
that
the street,
from the get go.
and right across the street, Holmes Community College has a great partnership in their CTE programs where you could be trained in the IT area in a year. They've got the
Yep.
certification. You guys can use them right now.
Absolutely. That's key in the tech space are your certifications. It's not your diploma. It's not, oh, this guy went to Harvard, this lady didn't. It's got nothing to do with that. It's, are you certified in the technology? Do you know it? Can you demonstrate you know it? If you can do that, they'll pay you and they'll employ you. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
100%.
there's still the places for the people with the accounting degrees and the business
Oh,
degrees.
sure, sure.
Yeah, but for I always want to, my whole goal is to give these kids options. So if they
Yeah.
don't want to spend the 4 years in college and they want to do the 1 or 2 years at Holmes Community right there in Ridgeland,
100% viable.
C Spire has a great partnership with Holmes Community College.
Yep.
And right now, with a 20 on the ACT, you can go to Holmes Community College for tuition free. Where was that when we needed it? Tell me about
Yeah,
it.
I would say I would even say this. I don't know if I should. It sounds like I'm discouraging people, but it's true. The cost of college has gotten so high. If you have the ability to knock out 2 years at a community college for low to no cost, that's the smart move these days.
I agree.
You'd be hard pressed for me to say it's a good idea for anyone to go to a 4 year university directly out of high school unless they're on a full scholarship.
I
If you're
agree.
not on a full scholarship, you got to knock the 2 years out of community college, and you might find your place in the world in those 2 years without having to go to the 4 year university. It's absolutely a possibility.
Especially in the tech space. I mean, tech space
Yep.
more than anything else. But I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can.
Sure.
This is Justin Clerk, and he's a senior. And he asked, what is the most important skill that you think you possess working in management?
In management specifically, I think it's giving my employees space to do their work. I am not a micromanager. Some people work best under very rigid direction, very rigid instruction, constant check-ins. I'm not that type of manager. My employees know what I expect of them, and they do their work. We have periodic check-ins. We check in. So my direct reports, we check in once every 2 weeks. I
Wow.
don't bother them. I tell them what I need. I need this over the next 2 weeks. If you need something from me, tell me. I will remove any roadblock in front of you from getting that done in this 2 week span. You tell me what you need from me. Other than that, I'm going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
Additionally, if they need to take a day off, they don't have to tell me. I don't need to know. Go to the dentist, do whatever you've got to do. I'm not micromanaging your time. As long as your job is done and your deliverables are met, we are good.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Aaliyah Chester. She's a junior. And this is a great question. I never thought about this. She asked, what is the most common complaint that you get from customers?
Ooh, I don't know that there is a common complaint. Well, that's an awkward pause, but I had to think about it because there actually was one, and we fixed it. We've solved the problem. One of a large swath of what we offer in C Spire Business are called managed services, right? So you can think we set up a customer's wireless access in their business, and then we manage it, right? Customer never touches it, never has to worry about it, never has to do anything. We do that with firewalls, SD-WAN appliances, all of this. But a very common complaint we got for a number of years was from customers who had internal IT staff that we were doing those managed services for. The CTOs would come to us and say, I like that you guys are doing the day-to-day, but I have no visibility. I don't know what's going on in my network. I can't see anything because since we're doing the management, we don't give them access to do it, right? That would be a conflict. Yeah. And they could break things. So we actually developed really a new product. We charge for it. But for various services, we have weekly reports that we'll send out. Like for a fire, we'll show we blocked this many attacks. We saw this many web filters. We saw X, Y, and Z. We changed these ACLs. So we actually developed, an add-on service. Okay, if you want to see that, Mr. Customer, we can absolutely provide it to you. It's going to cost you an extra $50 a month. And they were happy to pay it. So not only did we solve a problem that we were getting a lot of complaints about, we added revenue to the bottom line, right?
Wow. That's a heck of a way to solve it. This is Jacayla Page. She's a sophomore, and she asked, what's the earliest piece of equipment? The earliest piece of technology that you worked with?
The earliest piece of technology, probably a 386SX in like 1986 or 87. My grandmother, of all things, was the first person I ever knew that had a personal computer. And it was a 386SX, and I think she bought it around 1986 or 1987. And I can remember playing little text-based games on that when I was just a little boy. I would have been probably 7 years old. I think that's probably, if you're not counting the little turn dial TV, right? Greg will remember we were our parents' remote control, right?
Yeah.
Turn it to channel 3, we had to get up and go turn the dial, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think quite honestly, an MS-DOS 386 SX was probably the first exposure I had to a computer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how good they got it. This is Amari Williams. He's a freshman, and he asked, "What happens if you develop a great product and it does not sell?"
You get yelled at. No, I'm joking. You try to figure out why it didn't sell, right? We think every product we bring to market is great. Otherwise, we wouldn't bring it to market, right? And I kind of said earlier, you bring 20 to market that you think are great, and one of them sells. So we do a lot of retrospective work. We go out to customers when we see, because we have a CRM system, we see all the opportunities that salespeople have been involved in, quotes they put out there, quotes won, quotes lost, and we'll go to customers that have turned down the quote, said, "No, I'm not interested," and we'll interview them. What didn't you like? What could we have done better? And a lot of times it's that they didn't understand the value prop, right? And I think that's core. You can bring a fantastic piece of technology to market, but if you don't communicate the value of that technology to the customer, they're not going to buy it. They're just not going to. They have to, it has to solve not one, not two, but 3, 4, or 5 problems that they're having. So it's an art and a science to this. But I would say to answer your question succinctly, you have to do market retrospectives to understand why it didn't sell and how you can fix it, right? It may still be a great product and you just need to change your marketing. You need to change the way you talk about it. Maybe you need to change the way you're packaging it, and then it'll start to sell. Maybe the market's just not ready for it and you need to table it for a year, right?
Or it all goes back to hold on one second. Sorry, I was getting called by the counselor. I apologize.
No problem.
I just got one more from the students. This is Carl Tavius Ross. He's a senior, and he asked,
Sure.
"What type of training would someone in high school need to receive to get into this field?"
To get into product management. So, like I said, you can't get a degree in this. You can't get a certification. Well, I take that back. I think there is a company now, the Pragmatic Institute, that is offering a certification in product management. I would need to verify that, but I believe that to be true. But you can't go get a college degree, right? Product management, especially in the technology space, blends an engineering understanding with business acumen. You have to be able to do both. You have to understand the technology. You also have to understand the business aspects behind the technology to be successful, period. I would say if you were looking to get into product management, especially in the tech space, you have to understand a wide swath of technology, right? You cannot be, focused on a single thing. You can't say, I'm going to be a Java developer that then becomes a product manager. That's not really how it works. You've got to understand, like, my background, I don't have a development background, but I have done, I've done C++ coding. I've done C# coding. I've done SQL development, and I am not a developer. I've never taken a comp sci class in my life. Never done it. But my career has led me to need to do those things and to learn how to do them. And as you put all that together, along with understanding the business side of things, you can move into product management. I think a very good place to start, if I had to pick like an entry-level position that starts getting you into what product management means, it would be business analyst. A business analyst is typically the person that's writing requirements for projects. So whether those projects are internal technology projects or products that we're bringing to market, and that's just because it gets you exposed to a lot of different technology. It gets you thinking about everything that goes into bringing something to market, because when you're writing business, functional, and technical requirements, you are going through the minutia, right? Soup to nuts of what this thing entails. And that's what I did at FNC. I was a business analyst at FNC for 4 years. And I really think that role specifically is a very good entry point into moving into product or even project, which are two different things, or project management. But I would say if you're looking for a really good foot in the door there, I think business analyst is that's a good place to start.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for
Hey,
joining
no
us.
problem, Greg.
You're just one of the smartest people I've ever met. You just won't admit it. And it's so good to see some fellow classmates doing some great things.
Oh, you too, absolutely.
I appreciate it. But before we go, just let these kids know, why does C Spire need them to get these tech skills to be the next employees over there with you guys?
Look, brain drain is a real thing. I don't know if you guys have heard that term, brain drain, but it's a real thing, and Mississippi is affected by it specifically. Our top talent, when I say our, I mean the state of Mississippi, top talent leaves. They just do. They go for higher paying jobs on the coast, out to Denver, over to Atlanta, to Houston. They just leave the state. That's where they just do. They're trying to better their lives. You can't blame them. But companies like C Spire that are committed to Mississippi, that are committed to, our Southeast region, we need talent too, right? And we hire from all over the United States. I mean, we've got people from New York, from California, from Alaska that all work for C Spire. But keeping local talent local and building them up, training them, getting them the expertise, and helping drive C Spire forward is really, really what they're about. Now, I'll never begrudge anyone for coming to C Spire, making their career, and then going off to greener pastures, right? I mean, everybody does what's best for them. But for C Spire and for the state, we need technical talent. It is hard to recruit good tech talent because there are so many options out there. Now, C Spire, we've done things to try to make ourselves more attractive, right? We've got very competitive pay. We've got stock options. We've got health benefits, 401k. I mean, C Spire has a very good benefits package. Salaries are very, very competitive in the industry. We do all the things we can to keep ourselves competitive on a nationwide scale. But really, local talent is what the backbone of C Spire has always been, and it's going to continue to be. Yeah. And so if we can be a funnel for top technical talent in the state, that not only benefits Mississippi, it benefits C Spire, right?
And benefits the kids. So
absolutely,
they're having to go away to get the great job, and these jobs are not going away. They're only going to be
more. They're not. They're every year. There's only going to be more.
That's awesome. Well, again, Doug Mays, right here in Ridgeville, Mississippi at C Spire. Thank you so much. Good to see you, my man.
Hey, thank you, Greg.
All right, see you, buddy.
Later.